Welcome in, one and all, to the Travis Dufour Show, episode 10. We finally made it. It's 10, so that's a decade. We've been doing this show a decade. That's not true. This is Travis Dufour. You can follow the show at the Dufour brand, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We are everywhere. And without further ado, my longtime friend, one of my best friends in life, my longtime tag partner, somebody who I have shared so much history with in the ring, outside of the ring, you name it, the Tyler Caton. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, man. Dude.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
I had a feeling this day would
episode,
come.
We had a mutual friend of ours, Corey Kipps, and it just made sense to me to have you on the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Same, man.
And I know excited. The advertisements that I put out for this show, there's a lot of people who are looking forward to us kind of diving into the past together. I covered my entire wrestling career. Episodes 1 through 5 were all my wrestling career. 3 of those episodes included you, very much so. So to have you on, it is such a pleasure. And to just kind of kick this off right, I want to start the conversation with this. Go ahead and tell the people at home, maybe people who have never heard of Tyler Caton, just give them your height and your weight.
Height and weight. So actual height and weight is about height is about 5'3", 5'4", depending. Weight is ballpark like 140 now is about where I'm at.
How about in your heyday?
Heyday about I mean, obviously I didn't get any taller, but the majority was probably 120 was about what I weighed. I'd say for a good bulk of it.
And so you would absolutely, with that being said, you were a cruiserweight wrestler. Now
smallest guy on pretty much every show.
Hey, and you know what? There's benefits that. I know that, you got guys who we've been in the locker room, guys like Corey Bush, who has the super heavyweight, that checks that box. You got a guy like me who's 6'5", 180 pounds, who kind of checks that box of, having like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but Tyler, you check that box of having, like that cruiserweight guy. I mean, were you a big fan of like the WCW cruiserweights or maybe the TNA's X division? Like, did you know that, you were obviously going to wrestle like that?
I guess as like, before you actually get into it, you always have the idea of, what it is that you're going to be like. Definitely wasn't as a child anyway, not anywhere near what I was thinking, honestly. Not anything like spectacular, but like I always liked the idea of like my dream finisher, had I been an average size guy, was the Brainbuster. I fucking love that move. That is one of my favorite finishers ever. Like it's it looks amazing, and it's not that. I mean, it can be kind of dangerous, like, but that was my go-to finisher as a kid playing like SmackDown. You know, that was my finisher 9 times out of 10. So not really what I was expecting, honestly. But
you walking into the doors of, correct me if I'm wrong, you got your start at the House of Pain in Hagerstown, Maryland.
yeah.
Walking in through the door, they took one look at you and they said, okay, well, this guy's going to be the high flyer of the group. So, I mean, and being a high flyer, did you already have like a gymnastics background or?
Not at that time. So my very first day wrestling was actually my very first day of high school as well. I got out of school, my dad picked me up, and we went to Maryland. My very first day of freshman year was my very first day of practice.
So we're talking like 13, 14 years old?
14. Yeah, I was 14.
Whoa.
And I remember I had been asking for like 2 years about starting training. And obviously anybody that's within wrestling, I'm sure, knows how much of a bitch the athletic commissions can be at times, depending on the state. Pennsylvania is definitely very strict. Maryland wasn't super strict, at least not at that time. But they were still at least strict on the age. Finally, Dick Karakoff from like the NWL, he was the one that John Rambo talked to Dick, and then Dick got approval from the athletic commission for me to start at 14. I don't know at that point what the youngest actually was that they had ever had. I have no idea. But then after me came, I'll be honest, I remember Brady Hess, because Brady Hess actually did stick around wrestling for a while. But like Brady Hess followed in after me. There was a kid named Aaron he has a real long last name. Don't remember his full last name. But we called him Beefcake. Corey Bush, I think, is the one that coined him that nickname. And I'm pretty sure that it was a Cartman joke because he was a heavier set kid. And then there was, I think his name was Robert, but he was one of Jay Balla's friends. And friends, I don't know the relationship there, but we called him Little Balls. So that but like after I got joined in, then there were more like underage guys that followed suit. So it was kind of cool. But
man, that had to have taken some convincing. You mentioned, Dick talking to John, which for those of you who don't know, John Rambo is a wrestler he made his name in Portland, Oregon, for the NWA. I might be wrong about that, but we all knew that he came from Portland, and he was this grizzled veteran that wrestled in the late 80s, early 90s, and he ended up coming to Hagerstown, Maryland, after Neil Superior ended up passing away. Now, real quick about Neil. Did you ever meet Neil? Do you have any stories? No?
No. When, at least before I got into wrestling, I had no idea who Neil was at all. Obviously, like being a fan of the House of Pain, because I went to their shows for 2 or 3 years. I had, seen the name. They had the Neil Superior, presents House of Pain. The whole thing. Lord of the Rings was like, a trophy that was the same height as Neil. So like I knew of him, as a fan, but I had no clue who he was until I like got into wrestling, and then that's when I found out exactly who he was and everything like that.
That's cool. I'm pretty good friends with Doug Delicious, and as know, I was broken into the business by Shane Shadows, and both of those men were some of the first people to sign up at the school. And Doug has told me really funny stories about Neil. So it sounds like Neil was one of the boys.
Yeah. That was the vibe that I got from like the stories that I'd heard about it, for sure.
So as far as coming in, you came into the House of Pain at an interesting time. There were so many stories of guys getting kind of weeded out. If you go to the House of Pain, you get your ass beat to show that you want to be there, that
you can't hack it, you better get your jacket.
They had that shit on t-shirts, jackets, you name it.
I still have my jacket that says that.
Really?
I do, yeah. Yeah, it's in a closet in the house.
Man. Since we have a video podcast form of this, I wish I would have told you to grab that. But,
still, it even has stash on it. But here's the kicker, though. At the time, I was wearing like large and everything because I was skateboarding at the time also, and it was just more comfortable to skate in loose clothing. So I ordered a large jacket as well, and they didn't do the jacket orders very often. It was like a very rare occurrence. Like they hadn't done it in quite a while. Well, they had one, and obviously I wanted to jump at the chance of getting one, so I got a large. That's what I got and everything. Dude, this jacket is massive. Not once have I ever worn this jacket. It is entirely too big, but
I did whenever I came to the House of Pain and met you in late 2007, I remember John, trying to collect money from the boys from time to time. Hey, we got a new t-shirt. If you want to buy one, let me know. I'm like, so just so I'm checking all the boxes here, you're not paying me and you want me to buy your merch?
I only ever bought one shirt, and I'm pretty sure that was when I was a fan. I think I bought a shirt. And then I bought the jacket when they did the jacket thing. Aside from that, I'll be honest, I didn't buy shit. Didn't buy shit.
So the first ever indie show that I ever went to was presented by Shane Shadows, who whenever John Rambo came into House of Pain, Shane, from my understanding, got weeded out. Okay. So Shane started his own promotion. That was my first indie wrestling experience, was Shane's promotion. Now, was John's House of Pain, NWL, was that your first presentation of indie wrestling?
Yeah, so the way that I even found out that existed, my dad and I were huge wrestling fans, you know what I mean, through my entire childhood. He worked at, I want to say he worked at Royal Vendors, I think, out in like Inwood or wherever Royal Vendors was.
West Virginia.
Yeah. And Robbie Page, Wildman Robbie Page worked there as well. My dad saw a flyer in like the break room, or there was a flyer hanging up somewhere. So he tracked down who posted it. That's how he met Robbie. They worked in completely different areas, had never met, I don't think. Tracked him down and just got some info. I don't remember the exact first show that we ever went to.
It sounds like 2003, 2004 though.
Yeah, probably about 2000. Yeah, probably about 2004, maybe 2005 at the latest. But yeah, I want to say probably 2004. Because I started 9th grade. Yeah, 2004 sounds like it'd probably be pretty accurate. So then that, like, not only did we like find out about it through Robbie, but then Robbie was the first one that I actually like met. I think I actually still have somewhere an autographed picture from Robbie from those days of when I was a fan. I'm pretty sure I do somewhere.
That's pretty interesting considering, we'll be talking about this later on in the episode, I'm sure. But I mean, you have so much history with Robbie now.
Quite a bit. Definitely more than what as, 11, 12-year-old kid that I thought that I would.
But dude, that's really cool, man. Whenever I figured out about the NWL HOPWF, the only reason why I even heard about Shane's promotion is because I was watching Monday Night Raw, and there was a commercial that he had paid for to run during Raw on the USA Network in local markets. And so I saw the commercial, Demolition Axe, Greg Valentine, Ivan Koloff. They're coming to the Berkeley County Fairgrounds. And I was just like,
sold.
I had no clue that pro wrestling was in my area.
Yeah. And so, I don't think a lot of people do. I'll be honest, man. That's one of those things that like promotions still even today. Obviously, it's a little bit easier now because of social media in general. But like, dude, like, I mean, you and we were talking about this the other day, and I don't know if we'll touch on it at all, but we spent a day of 14 hours or more going around flyering for a show, and social media did exist. but yeah, man, like that was such a big thing in those days that a lot of people didn't know about that, man. A lot of people had no idea there was wrestling in the area. Like especially as an 11, 12-year-old. And then my dad, like, dude, my dad, I think he has a Facebook now, but I don't know if he knows how to use it. I have no idea. I know he can barely text. Like, I don't think he can really text all that, all that well. But yeah, I wasn't on Facebook or anything.
Like, to really date myself here, the way that I figured out about the NWL HOPWF is, which is a fucking mouthful, by the way.
That's how you can tell if you worked there or not. If you can spew it out without a breath, NWL HOPWF. That's you never worked there if you can't do that.
I mean, I just remember being on the computer a good bit as a teenager, and one of the things I will give them all the credit in the world for is that they had a really nice hookup on AOL, the NWL HOPWF. They had their own section on the AOL message boards. Like, whenever you first log into AOL, you can go to the message boards, and they had like their own section. And I was like, well, what the fuck is this?
That's impressive, actually.
I was a total mark. And whenever I saw that they were booking head shrinker Samu on like all of their cards, I was never a head shrinker guy. I don't know if I'd ever seen Samu in a match before this, but I was like, former WWF, I gotta be there.
I remember one of the first ones that no, it wasn't one of the first ones that we went to, but I think it was the first time that I was like surprised at somebody that they had come in, was that they brought in Heidenreich. And this was shortly after his WWE release. And so he was still capitalizing on the, Road Warriors of that. So I think he still had the shoulder pads. He had the face paint, the whole 9 yards. But as a kid, like, I had never, and especially, I had met Samu, but like, kind of like what you said, I had no idea who he was. You know what I mean? Up to that point, like when I first heard him, I had no idea who he was.
What's really funny about that is Heidenreich, did those. I think he did 2 shots. I think he did a Saturday road show, and Sunday they did a special. Like, Heidenreich will be at the House of Pain the next day, at the school. And what's really funny about that is that night he donned the shoulder pads, was Road Warrior Heidenreich, but he had a tag match where his partner was Axel Rotten.
No way. Dude, did not know about that.
He gave him the shoulder pads. They called him Road Warrior Axel that night, the whole 9 yards. And then I found myself maybe a year later running a wrestling radio show, and I had Road Warrior Animal on my show. And
really?
I told him about it. He was pissed. He was like, God damn it, I own the likeness to that. I own the trademark. If that dude's still making money off that gimmick and just giving the gimmick to other people, he was like, that's bullshit. And he's going to hear from my lawyers. And to this day, I haven't seen Heidenreich on any shows since then.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, actually. I was just thinking, I have no idea whatever happened to him. No clue.
Public apology time. Very sorry, Heidenreich.
Axel, man. Axel was, I know in one of your episodes, you already shared one of the stories about Axel with your show that you had. I'm pretty sure that you were at the House of Pain for one of the house shows that he was at. This is when the locker room was still upstairs. Yes. And I'm pretty sure that this is the one when you and Velasco talked me into also going out shirtless for the very first time because I had really bad back knee. I'm pretty sure that was the same show. Because I think that I want to say that Velasco might have said like something about it not being as embarrassing as that and like pointing at Axel, but he literally passed out in the locker room. He was in the middle of lacing up his boots and was just out cold.
I remember.
And do you remember that? And I remember somebody actually Like somebody like brought it, I think to John, like brought it up to him. And he's like, oh, he does this all the time. And I'm like, what the like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and he stood up, he got a Sharpie, he wrote Axel on the chair. I think he like hit himself in the head with it, and then he went down for his match. I'm like, fucking okay. Like,
now a lot of guys, like a lot of young guys, I get this question a lot. They'll ask me like what's like one of the most impressive things you've ever seen in wrestling, and I'll tell that story.
Yeah, dude, and it was nothing. It was like it was nothing. That blew my mind still to this day, man.
And the fact that he just gets up and then goes out to the ring and has a 5-star match, hits it on all cylinders, selling, like everything makes sense. Holy shit.
I also remember him annihilating somebody with a chair. I don't remember who it was. I know it was somebody that traveled with him to one of the shows. This is at the Apollo. And there was somebody there on the balcony that got arrested this night because they had a cooler full of beer and yelled down and started tossing Axel beers as well. And Axel was just drinking them in the ring. Like, and one of his guys, like they had the spot where one of his guys come in, slides in the ring and gives him the most insane chair shot I had ever seen in person at that point. And legit knocked this dude out. Absolutely knocked him out. Like he legitimately had to be carried to the back. That would have been an actual like that would have been an actual like X moment. If there was a referee involved, that would have been one of those moments, hands down. Because he actually got carried to the back and was unconscious.
That's the thing about House of Pain. Like you would see that kind of stuff as a fan, and you would hear stories and stuff like that. And that's exactly why I didn't fucking go to that place whenever I got into business.
Dude, it's
to train.
Crazy to think that at 14 years old they even let me sign up. Like, I saw a lot of shit at that point in my life.
So, okay, with that being said, your first couple days in wrestling, your first couple weeks, months, any kind of hazing, or was it pretty open-armed? Like, who kind of took you under your wing, stuff like that?
So I feel like I got let off a little easier than what I'm sure some people did. I don't want to say because of the underage thing, because I know that that's not necessarily true. But I feel like it might have been because my dad had a relationship with Robbie, and the fact that I did know some of the guys already. Like I did when I started out, the two main ones that like really kind of took me under were Chris Klein and Robbie Page. And the reason I say that I don't think the underage thing really makes that big of a difference is because I had seen Chris fuck some of those younger guys up. Like Chris, like he treated them exactly the same, you know, as he would a 21, a 30-year-old. Didn't fucking matter. Like I seen him fucking stomp the shit out of him like you would, you know, a grown man as well.
No, but why was he doing that though, Tyler?
I mean, back then it was to make sure that, you know, at least to me anyway, making sure that they're going to be able to hang
exactly what they did to him.
Yeah. Yeah. So making sure that you can get over it. But at some point they got bullied by somebody else as well. Like they got the shit beat out of them. And I think a big one would be Corey Bush is a good example of that. Because I know damn well, because I even seen it when I was there, that Chris kicked the shit out of a lot of people back then. But I remember Chris beating the shit out of Corey all the time. But I remember one of the, like, it was the very first big move that I ever took was a running power slam from Corey Bush, and he fucking held nothing back. Like he drilled me into the mat to the point like I couldn't breathe. I was gasping. That was the first bump that I ever took that wasn't me taking a bump.
He was like, watch what I do to this 14-year-old.
Well, dude, fun story about me and Corey. One of the first, I'd say the first big match that I was ever a part of, was that I was actually like, A, I was nervous about, but B, I was also like excited for at the same time. It was a fans bring the weapons match. I don't know if you were around for this. No, you weren't, because I was wrestling at this time. So just a little about what that means. Travis and I met when I was still very new and I was managing. I was in training to wrestle, but I hadn't actually gotten in the ring yet.
And Tyler, you were wrestling. Your name was Stash, and the gimmick
Stash.
was Tyler. He had this huge afro, and the running joke was he could have anything in that. Yeah, and would you pull gimmicks out of your hair?
I would actually. So it was something that started back when I was skateboarding as well. I always wore cargo shorts and stuff like that. And so one of the gimmicks, was that, I'd get patted down by the ref and they just pull stuff out of every pocket. Like I had something with me everywhere. But then,
cool.
And then the kicker was that I would then have, because my hair would be poofed and then it would hang down a little bit. Well, I had a headband that was the exact same color as my hair. And I would hide it like under the fluff of the fro. Inside of that headband, I had kind of like a pair of shorts almost. I had a hole, like 2 holes in it. And instead of being a string, I ran a chain through it. So there would be a chain coming around it. So then mid-match, I could stop and mess with it. Nobody knew I was wearing a headband. And I'd pull a chain out of my hair, wrap it up, and then I just, pitch it.
Wow.
So I did actually play the hair into it.
Who was giving you those ideas, or were you thinking of this stuff on your own?
So that was something that came later on. I didn't think of the headband thing right away. That wasn't until a little bit later. It was honestly kind of an idea of like my dad's almost of like, cause I always wore cargo shorts and everything. And so, he was like, if you go out to the ring like that, you could have anything. Like, that could be like the thing is that, they're just constantly finding stuff on you. And I remember it was one of my first couple days. It was with Tremor. I had like spit that idea out and Tremor goes, hey, he's like, we could call you Stash. And it got a laugh and we were like, shit, like that's actually not bad. Like that could work. So Tremor is actually the one that coined that name actually. And I remember the first time that I went out with Brandon, I remember at the time that I didn't feel ready to be in front of a crowd. I was extremely antisocial as a kid. I was not very talkative. And wrestling is what kind of, you can't do that and be antisocial, especially not as a manager. But so I remember not feeling like I was ready to go out, and they threw me out anyway. And I didn't have anything to run with, so that's what they wrote on the paper was Stash. And so it was something like, we got nothing else, so that's what we're throwing because we already came up with it. And so it was one of those ordeals. But yeah, Tremor is actually the one that came up with that name.
That's pretty cool. Tremor is actually still around. He is still the head trainer for today's version of the House of Pain.
Really? I did not know that, actually. Did not know that. That's actually really cool.
If anybody's interested, I'll put my stamp of approval on that. I don't mind sharing that. If you would like to get into the wrestling business, one of your options is in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It's known as the House of Pain Wrestling Federation. And if we're talking about schools real quick, we'll get back on topic here. The World Domination Wrestling Alliance as well in Martinsburg, West Virginia. They also have a school. So if you're interested in getting into the business, that's
based out of Martinsburg.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I did not know that. I knew that they run in Berkeley Springs, so I assumed that's where it was going to be, but that's actually really cool.
No, yeah, where they train at, that's their that's where they run shows at as well. And that's actually my home now.
That is awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, I didn't know that was in Martinsburg. That's awesome.
Yeah. They got
something in Martinsburg.
And the guy who runs that is the Latin Tornado, who's been wrestling since the early 90s. Another good trainer.
He made my very first pair of pants, actually.
Really?
And that was and I remember him talking to John about wanting to like he was saying like, I want to start making gear, and he asked John like who he could practice with. And John like pointed him over to me. So I remember him coming over, taking measurements and everything. And so it was actually the first time of him making gear was also like for me. Like, and my first pair of gear was the first pair that he ever made. That was. Do you remember my? Well, yeah, you remember them. Remember my like baggy blue pants?
Yes.
LT made those. LT made
Wow.
those. Yeah.
Dude, that's
I
crazy.
still have those. They look like shit now. They are they're destroyed, but I can't get rid of them. Can't get rid of them.
The building that he runs his wrestling out of, Monday through Friday and the weekends as well. He runs a clothing company, and it's called it's called Custom Creations. So it seems like he's had a passion for that for a long time then.
Yeah, because hell, man, that would have been 14 years ago or so. Wow. Was when that was.
Man, I remember going to school with, I guess Latin Tornado was dating one of my friend's moms. And
really?
yeah. And she was like, oh, Trav, you like wrestling? My stepdad's Latin Tornado. Cool.
So he's a good guy. He's a very good guy.
He is. He's one of the good guys, man. There's a lot of guys that you meet in the wrestling business that don't want to give you credit for the things that you've done in the business. But I just started working with LT about a year and a half ago. And from the day that I've met Latin Tornado, I have never had a run-in with that man. Never. And he has treated me with respect since day one.
Yeah. I remember even like years later, this was I maybe post Starlight Gaze, actually. I remember him hitting me up about coming down for DWA, WDWA. And he actually remembered who I was. It blew my mind, actually. He actually like remembered me as, I don't ever remember Stash, but he remembered me as, John's student that had an afro. So that was cool to me. That was cool to me that he remembered me from back then.
Like, and it's funny you say that because like the really old school guys, the really like cool fucking old school guys, like for example, Tom Brady has and he wrestled in the WWF. He was Sal Sincere, the Patriot, you name it. That dude, whenever he sees me, he always goes, hey, what's going on, Travis? And that always blows my mind because I'm like, bro, I never did shit in this business. And it's like, you remember my name.
The one that was cool like that to me wasn't on like his level, but as far as like in the area was Bobby Shields. Bobby Shields did some stuff as well.
Ring of Honor,
yeah. And like he was big like independent, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I remember I had met him like twice before this or so, but I remember seeing him at, I want to say it was a Primal Conflict show. And I remember shaking his hand, and I was like, "Hey, Bobby," I was like, "I'm Tyler," and he was like, "Dude, we've met like 3 times." He was like, "I know you are." And I was like, shit. I was like, you meet all kinds of people.
From my understanding, I've done a couple like angles with Bobby. Never like, but from my understanding, Bobby's the kind of guy who likes to plan out like his whole match. I might be wrong about that, but if you're that kind of person who can plan out your whole goddamn match, because I'm not that guy. He, probably good.
I'm not anymore.
Not anymore.
I try, and then that's when shit goes south.
So House of Pain, that was really cool. That's where you got your start. Let's talk about how those days ended. Was it a bitter ending? Did it just kind of end out of nowhere? Like,
honestly, it was kind of out of nowhere. They took the old House of Pain. It was like their cruiserweight title. They took it and they revamped it as the junior title, and it was strictly for underage. Strictly for underage guys.
So they had just this whole group of fucking 14-year-olds in the back, and John's like, I need to make money somehow off this thing.
We had the match at like the crowning match at the Apollo, and I got put over for it.
Nice.
So I was the first junior House of Pain champion, and it was at the Apollo. So super cool. You've spoken before on here about the Apollo as a venue for wrestling. So that was a big deal. That was a big deal for me. To win even something, even to win a title as, the junior title was still cool, especially in that venue.
Yeah.
But it was honestly like a month later, I messed up my shoulder.
I didn't know that.
I don't remember exactly what happened. My left one, it'll still like pop actually. I don't remember what actually happened that I like messed it up, but I missed one show. Right, I skipped like a Saturday. I come back like that Tuesday, new junior champion. There was somebody else. They vacated the title that night, and so I worked that Tuesday, and then I didn't go back.
Wow. Dude.
And yeah,
I have seen, I've been a part of 50 plus promotions. I have never seen a promotion where their workers took the titles so fucking serious than House of Pain.
Yeah. It was like, oh, he's not here to defend it. Oh, we gotta have somebody that's gonna defend it.
I mean, I only spent.
We have 2 shows a week.
I didn't even spend that long of a time at House of Pain, but I won't say his name. Nah, fuck it. Who cares?
I already know who you're gonna say, I think.
So somebody missed one of the shows, so the House of Pain Heavyweight Championship became vacant, and somebody needed to win it. Now, Rocky DeCola, he thought that, he was the obvious choice for it. He had been working hard, and to his credit, Rocky, fucking awesome worker.
Yeah. Okay? Great showman. Dude was a very good showman.
Yes. Can Absolutely. Cut a promo. I mean, he walks the walk. He can talk the talk. You name it. But at this time, I saw Rocky go into the corner away from everybody as John was like, okay, well, I have to think about it. Okay. I'm not just going to tell you who's going to win. I have to think about it. So John walks away. The locker room's starting to talk like, oh man, okay. I mean, maybe Lawless, maybe this guy. And Rocky leaves the group, goes into the corner and just starts fucking praying. Gets on his knees.
I remember that. I do remember that.
And he did. He ended up winning the belt. I think John saw him praying to his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, now I have to give it to him.
Yeah, man, that place was crazy. I remember one of them, it was another vacant heavyweight title.
Why does this keep happening?
There's a trend here. There's a trend. This shit got vacated over nothing. But dude, I remember it was being crowned in a battle royal. And I remember John was like, and for the battle royal, it's gonna be, and he like looks around and then he stops and he's staring at me, right? Bro, I'm 15. I'm 15 years old at this point, right? And dude, I know I have no shot, so I'm not even fucking paying attention. I'm just lacing up my boots. and so I'm like, and I remember I look up because I'm like, this is a long pause. Like, and I look up and everybody's staring at me, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm so confused. And then John, he pulled that shit and he was like, oh, I'll get back to you. And he leaves.
Christ.
And I remember people coming up and being like, yo, is he playing it on him? Like, it was like people were getting pissed off. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Just mass confusion. I had no idea. And I was involved in the finish. And it sounded like leading into it, it really sounded like I was getting it. And dude, I got like a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie.
Who won?
He was like going over the finish, and basically I was getting dumped out the back. Now the House of Pain, in the school anyway, where it was, for those of you guys that have never been there, probably 70% of the ring was just surrounded by wall. There wasn't much space, maybe a 2-foot gap around it. There was one side of fans and then like a little section here on the side of a couple chairs. And so the finish that he was like, hey, this is what's going to happen is I get dumped out the back, like very early. Okay, very early in the match. I get thrown out along the wall side, and I just chill. I just hang out. And the idea was that I get forgotten about until the very end. They ring the bell. They announce that it's actually Tremor. They announce that Tremor's the winner. And then I come in. I slide in behind him, and I low blow him. And at this point, everybody in locker rooms like what? Everybody's shocked. Everybody is shocked.
The fucking workers are more invested than the fans.
I low blow Tremor. I don't remember if I like just like trash talked him or if I went to go throw him out, but whatever it is, then he like reversed me and he throws me out. And then they ring the bell again and announce that he's the winner. And I'm like, so he wins twice. Is really what you're getting at. You're gonna announce him as the winner twice. I'm just there to give like false hope, I guess.
I like that though. It's the old.
It was fun. It was very fun. But yeah, man, people in the locker room were so like, just like you said, they were more invested than anybody. And I'm like, in reality, what fucking business is it of yours? Like, but man, that place, it was different. It was very different from anything that I've seen for sure.
So you end up leaving, something happens to your shoulder, and now at this point,
I go back to skateboarding. Actually, I go back to skateboarding and just kind of being a teenager. In all honesty,
wrestling is over for you.
Yeah. I either was just turning or I had just turned 17. So I'm, going into my last summer of high school, you know what I mean? Going into my senior year, and then through my senior year, like it's one of those things that it was a cool experience that I had, you know what I mean? Those like at that point, 3 years, you know what I mean? It was very
major accomplishment. Yes.
But, I still wanted to do it, but at this point I was kind of over it. Like, over just the excitement of it.
But correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of House of Pain guys thought this. A lot of House of Pain guys thought that House of Pain is end all be all. And if you're not there, it's over.
Yep. And you're not wrong at all. Because a big thing that you had talked about in one of the other episodes was about the certification, got to get the certification. So in my mind, I've been conditioned to, you're not getting booked anywhere unless you're certified. If you're not certified, you're not working anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So in my mind, I'm like, well, shit. And at that time, to be fair, nobody else was really running West Virginia at that time either. And with being under 18, I couldn't wrestle Maryland. I couldn't wrestle PA. So I was kind of stuck. And like, to the best of my knowledge anyway, I didn't really have anywhere that I could go. Which did kind of suck. You know what I mean? Because it's something that I had this, like about 10-year excitement to do, what I mean?
It's a passion.
Well, I guess like 7-year excitement of as a kid of, I want to do that one day. And then like the 2 to 3 years of like, hey, can I do this yet? And then the 3 years of finally getting to do it. And then just to be disappointed in how the experience ended. You know what I mean? So it definitely kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth to an extent for sure. But yeah, that's absolutely the mentality that you're fed there, is that there is nowhere else. It is there and exclusively there, and there's nowhere else to go higher than that. Like that's where you stop.
Well, even whenever I came to the House of Pain, I still had booking obligations that I had to do whenever I first came there.
I remember you telling me, like, talking about that.
There was a Saturday that I had to miss because I was booked for Covey Pro in Berkeley Springs. And I remember the guys, really not being happy about that. And I told this story on another episode, but I ended up getting a concussion on that show. Showed up the next Tuesday. I was booked to work Robbie and Klein, I think as a punishment, and asked them to protect me. They ended up kicking my fucking head in.
I remember that match, actually. I do remember that match.
Crazy that you even remember that kind of shit. But do you remember the Latin Hit Squad?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So, the only main reason I remember them was because two of my friends that were wrestling fans as well. They had come to a show. And I remember like I taught them like some stuff, like how to give a body slam and all that. And we would just fuck around. You know, at this point, we're still 15. You know what I mean? We're still wrestling on trampolines and everything. And I remember my one buddy was such a fan of. There was the one that was like taller and a little bit skinnier, but still like a good sized guy. And then the smaller, like kind of chubbier one. The smaller, chubbier one. He would. I swear it was every time that he would get hit. It was, oh shit. That was so my one buddy absolutely loved that. So anytime that we would mess around on like the trampoline or like in the pool or anything, he'd like get hit and he'd be like, oh shit. I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. That was hilarious. But yeah, dude, that was his favorite part about the entire show. He absolutely loved that guy. But they were good. They were great athletic guys. I remember I never got to work. I did get to work them actually one time. And I remember there was only one instance where I had like any kind of problem, but it was the wrestling style because they were from Puerto Rico. Yeah. And so they did a lot of stuff different than how we did it. And it was still one of those things that I think they were transitioning with. And so I remember taking an arm drag backwards because they went with the right arm instead of the left. Like he hooked me with the right arm and it like I like landed on my face. It was very awkward. It was very, very weird. But yeah, like oh man, that was the only experience that I had working them. And I remember it was the one time that I ever actually had to hold the rope because I couldn't understand what somebody called. They went to go whip me and he called something. I couldn't make out what he said. So I got to the other side and I just held on. And I remember afterwards, like he like they liked me, like, you know what I mean? They liked me as a worker, like even being like young, you know what I mean? And so they didn't get like angry, but in the back, he was like, why'd you do that? I'm sorry, man. I was like, I couldn't make out what he said. Like I had no idea. And he understood, you know what I mean? He understood. I was like, listen, man, that's just what I was told to do. If I don't know what you're calling, I'm not running back at you for God only knows what. It's not happening. And so he was understanding about it, but they were good guys. I actually completely forgot about them until you brought them up.
He's like, God damn it, why isn't my English better?
They were Baltimore cops, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so, actually. Yeah.
Because I remember being freaked out one of the first shows they were on because they both had guns. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then I saw the badge and I was like, oh shit, okay, makes sense now. I think it was Baltimore. I think they were from Baltimore.
Guys, I mean, just to paint a very interesting picture for everybody who listens to this episode, this was still very much so a time in the wrestling business where things were fucking brutal to the point where Tyler was even, now correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler was even offered a certification in wrestling if you could get somebody prescription pills.
Yes, yeah. We'll avoid names, but I remember at this time, this was when we were starting Starlight Gaze, or around that time. This is when I got back into it, and I remember getting a message from him on Facebook and was like, "Hey man, I remember you, from the House of Pain. It's awesome to see that you're traveling. If you ever want to come down south, let me know." And I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's awesome, man. Like that's a really cool opportunity. And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, you hook me up with like 200 perks or so. I'll take you on the full tour with me. And I'm like, for real? Like, is that really? That was actually why he hit me up. And I was like, I'm good, man. But
hey,
thanks, I guess.
To be fair, though, there's guys in that locker room who were very heavily into alcohol. There were guys in the locker room who were very heavily into pills. There were guys in the locker room who was very heavily into weed. You name it, there was something to find in the locker room at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could find pretty much anything. You could literally find pretty much anything in a wrestling locker room, 9 times out of 10. I don't see that too much anymore now.
No.
Like I don't like. Anytime that I've gone to shows, it's wrestling now is a lot different than what it was back then. It really is. Like oftentimes, dude, I'll be in the locker room and I'll just hear people talking about like video games and like movies and stuff. Like it's just laid back conversation. Like you still have like people that'll smoke weed, but
yes,
I mean I don't smoke, but in today's, I used to, but like not anymore. But like in today, dude, so many people smoke. You know what I mean? Like that's one of those things that as a kid back then, I was like, oh my god, like y'all doing weed to each other, like. like now it's like, oh, you got weed, all right. Like no big deal. It really like, but I don't see anything else ever, like not really.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, you know, I'm not going to speak for Tyler, but I feel like we will agree on this one. Whenever I was an active wrestler, and Tyler too, if I thought even weed, if you had to smoke a fat ass bowl, a blunt, whatever before your match, if I had to wrestle you, I would have tried to find another opponent.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Here's my thing is I never really gave a shit what people did as long as it was after the match.
Yes.
If you do it after the match as just a celebrate hangout thing, I don't give a shit. I really couldn't fucking care less. But because like the biggest part of wrestling is like especially for me with my size, man, because they're with my size, anybody can do any move to me, and people always took advantage of that. You know, like, oh, there's this thing I really want to try. And depending on the person, I was willing to try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you got a Jason Raditz, a Shane Malice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Like and like we'll use Shane as a great example. I remember Shane and I's singles match that we had at the Masonic Temple. I remember him telling me beforehand there were 2 spots that he had mentioned that well, there were 3 in total. The one I was right about when I said we shouldn't do that because it's not going to work. That was me taking a Canadian destroyer from him, which if nobody's ever taken a Canadian destroyer, the guy taking it is the one that does everything, because you have to support that person's weight and backflip with them. And I told Shane flat, I was like, it ain't fucking happening. Like, it's not happening, bud. And but we did it, and it looked like shit. It was the only spot of the match that it didn't work. But one of them was a power bomb, like backbreaker. He wanted to power bomb me onto his knee, and I'm like, fuck, like, yeah, let's do it, because I'm like, this dude's not gonna kill me in the ring. Like we had a great relationship with them during that feud, and so I was like, yeah, man, fuck it. Like I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I'm down to try it. Like I'm down to give it a shot. But like, dude, if somebody's gonna like be trashed or like get high as shit before a match, hell no chance is that happening. So I'm right there with you.
You know,
I would, without a doubt, I would flat out back out of that match. I don't give a shit. You don't get paid much in the indies to be doing that kind of shit.
No, yeah. You know, and I get it, you know, everybody's trying to get together highlight reels. Like they're trying to really go, you know, this mentality of you know, certain guys who really go balls to the walls, like in an unsafe way. Most of the time, those are the guys who are talking about, oh, if they can't keep up, then that's not my problem and shit like that. I don't want any part of that guy.
Yep. I agree.
Piece of
100% agree.
But okay, so let's talk a little bit about Starlight Gaze. That was myself and Tyler Caton's tag, our whole tag run. It really changed everything for me and for you.
Me, yeah, and me as well. Absolutely.
Because like I said on a recent episode, before Starlight Gaze, me and Tyler, we just didn't have the right gimmick. We didn't have, you know, there was some things we could do in the ring that were pretty impressive here and there. But once we came together and then created the package of Starlight Gaze, one of the things that I thought before doing Starlight Gaze was I just looked at all of the gimmicks in the area, and there was nobody really like supporting, you know, it is Pride Month, supporting the gays.
Gays parade.
I'm talking rainbows. I'm talking, you know, just really eccentric stuff. But we decided very early on that we were not a gay tag team. We wanted it to be a bromance
with gray borders.
strong innuendos. Yes. But it ended up really working out. Now I had promotions that didn't want to use Starlight Gaze because of that. Did you kind of run into that too?
Just the one instance of it. Well, I guess twice because one of them was with Shane, actually, with CPW. I don't know if you remember the Big Bear Lake, but it was one of the shows that you and I worked each other out there. And I remember us talking to him and be like, hey, you know, we're starting to pick up. This was still very early in Starlight Gaze, but we were like, hey, you know, we're starting to kind of pick up some steam with this. Like we'd like to do this. And I remember it specifically being because of the location, because of it being, you know, Big Bear Lake and it being, you know, families on vacation and stuff like that, that he didn't actually flat out say it, but I don't think that he wanted to push that. But it was one of those things where we kind of harped on, like, you know, that you and I, and I don't know if you feel this way, but like you and I, from the very first time that we ever got in the ring to, like, with each other, it was like an instant connection. Like it was immediate. And we had wrestled each other, like, against each other a few times, and every time was just great. Like it was very good. So I'll be honest, I was scared at first of teaming up, because I was like, shit, like I had never been a tag wrestler. I had never done tag team wrestling. So it was completely new to me. I knew that you came from tag wrestling and that I always liked watching you guys as a tag team. And I don't know if I'm sure that you'll remember it once I bring it up, but you guys doing like the coast to coast and the spot where you would come off of his back and do the poke in the eye.
Yeah.
Cracked me up. And I remember telling you countless times, like, I want to do a variation of that. I think that's hilarious. I think that would be gold. We need to do something like that. I enjoyed watching you guys. So it wasn't that I was nervous about, like, teaming up with you in particular. It was, I know that I have chemistry with this guy as far as, you know, a like opponent goes. I know him and I worked against each other very well, but I don't know tag wrestling. So I was scared. I was very nervous. Like leading into the UCW show of us teaming up. And I remember, I think both of us thinking at that time that was going to be a one and done thing for the most part. In all honesty, I don't think that we really planned on it being an ongoing thing. And the way the cards fell, it turned into multiple times of it happening for years.
And it's interesting that you say that, because like you said, me personally, I finally found somebody who wasn't shitting on every fucking idea that I had, like as far as in-ring stuff. There was things I wanted to push myself with, like taking the Hurricane Rana. You know, there's just, with my reputation and stuff like that, people just wanted to play it safe with me, play it really safe. And I wasn't getting any younger. I was 23, 24. And I was really,
18?
I was just wanted to start having like better matches. And I felt like that was the fucking issue, is that I just needed to do more entertaining matches. And then I found this guy who was letting me do different stuff, and I was able to take different stuff from him. So it's interesting that instead of touring with me versus you, which, you know, for example, Bill Bain, Bobby Shields,
Robbie and Klein. Robbie and Klein, I remember, had the same match at 12 different companies, and it was literally punch for punch the same match, but it was a 5-star match that they knew front and back. And it blew them up in each of those companies. That was what I envisioned for you and I, honestly. That's where I thought we were going, because you and I have had the same match on more than one occasion. I don't know. The only reason I remember it specifically, and this is one of those things where you said about like people like shitting on your ideas. But I was always a fan of like spots that you would want to do. Like, hey, what if we did this? You know, I think this would be cool. And I don't know if you remember. I think this was from the Big Bear Lake show. Well, it was the same match like that we had before. But I remember us doing. We threw it into every match that we ever wrestled with each other. The Olympic Slam arm drag. We did it all the time. And dude, it felt so smooth. It looked beautiful. But that was one of those things that you threw out at me, and I was like, oh shit, like I could see that work. And I'm like, yeah, let's try it and see. And it got a huge pop. You know what I mean? Big guy hooks me for a slam. We go. I counter into an arm drag. Next thing you know, I got you, you know, in an arm lock, and we're going up the ropes, and we're doing a Rana. So like,
and dude, and the whole thing about that is that we were peppering on that character. That spot alone could sometimes take a minute and a fucking half to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were just trying to get the most out of everything.
I don't think there's anybody that I learned more from than you throughout the course of us wrestling, in all honesty. Because like you always had like, you were the one that kind of like taught me like how to talk on a mic and how to, you know what I mean? How to start kind of like thinking creatively about shit. Because for me, especially coming from the House of Pain, it was, oh, here's this move and you're doing it. And there's no variation to it. The Hurricane Rana had to be done by putting your hands on their shoulders and jumping up onto them and then going. And there was no variation. Now, I remember like the Hurricane Rana, for example, Jersey Kid was, I don't even remember him or not.
Yeah.
He would come down on the summers. He would sleep in the ring and he would stay the entire summer at the House of Pain. But I remember the one time him and I went in on like a Saturday, and dude, I think that we did like probably a dozen different Ranas, and John was a little pissed because one of them was the running and no hands, like one leg, and then we're going like what you and I did. And I remember him being a little pissed because that wasn't the traditional way of doing it. He did not want that like on his show. But that was what resonated better with me. I hated the shit of, you know what I mean? It looked dumb. It looked terrible in my opinion. But then I started to kind of like, he started to get more open-minded about it. And I think that was because Viper quit. I don't know if you remember Viper leaving the House of Pain, but then they lost their big cruiserweight. And I remember at this time I had been practicing springboards, and I remember John walking in the one time and he was like, oh, what are you guys doing? And I remember somebody, like me and Corey were keeping it under wraps. We didn't want people to know that we had been doing that. And somebody was like, oh, he was just doing some springboards. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, that's not good. and so John was like, he was like, well, let's see. And so I do a small one. And he was like, can you go further? I'm like, yeah, I think so. And so I hit another one, and pretty sure the ring in the school was just a 16 by 16. But I remember like hitting the springboard, and I landed with my feet on the bottom rope of the other side. And John was like, that's pretty damn good. He was like, we got to start working that in. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay. And then next thing I know, I'm working with Titan and Corey on doing like the Dragon Rana and stuff like that. So like Jersey was the one that like helped me kind of like, you can do some stuff like some other ways.
It's just,
but as far as like being like actually innovative, like you were the one that did a lot of that, man. For me, everything always seemed like a copy and paste as far as what I had learned up to that point. It was, this is how you do it, now do it. And it makes shit boring. Like it made it very boring.
That just paints to me, it's such a fucking racket that dude ran, because the only reason why I say that is because before you got there, one of the things as a fan that I remember being like headlining the shows for him was his fucking TLC matches that he would have with these dudes that came from New York and New Jersey, Sam Sanders, Spiral, Joker, like these guys, like for example, Spiral off the top of a ladder through 2 stacks of tables, had him in a Styles Clash, and did a front flip power bomb.
Jesus.
Dude, it was fucking insane. Like Spiral was so innovative. And just knowing that he used to, really push those
do that
matches,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
you know, and then he sees a young guy like you, or anybody with some kind of a talent that maybe they could do what Spiral did, or maybe has that talent, and he would suppress them. Like,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But
yeah, so it wasn't until you and I got with Robbie and you and I started teaming that I started to realize that there is more shit that we can do. You know what I mean? Like, a lot more shit that we can do.
And you know what? Robbie has those same stories. Even Corey's first opportunity whenever he left House of Pain, Shane Shadows hit him up and gave him a spot in CPW, and that changed everything for Corey. He knew that he never had to go back to the House of Pain, and he never did.
Corey's another one, man. Corey, as far as at the House of Pain goes, Robbie and Klein really kickstarted it. And then when they left, Corey was the one that like primarily took me under his wing. Corey and Titan. So like, what was nice about them is that they're both big guys. You know what I mean?
Super heavyweight.
Yeah, we're like, and same thing goes today with Manchild. And that I can say with any of those three that like they would honestly, I think, let themselves get hurt before they would let me get hurt. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I knew with them, I could throw myself at them in any way imaginable, and they're going to catch me. Like, however I hit them, they're going to catch me. But I remember Corey telling me when I was in training that that kind of the same thing that I said at the start of all this was that I didn't envision myself as being a small guy when I had these fantasies of being a wrestler, and that he didn't imagine being a super heavyweight, that he imagined that he was going to be a smaller guy and be a high flyer. So I remember Corey specifically telling me that he was going to teach me everything that it was that he couldn't do, that he wanted to. So like, that's where like the Dragon Rana came into play. Like he envisioned himself wanting to do that move as a kid. And obviously with, you know, the build that he grew into, couldn't fucking do that. So like, that was how I learned a lot of the high flying stuff was from Corey. Actually, it's weird to say that, you know, oh, a 300-pound dude taught me a lot of the high flying stuff that I know how to do. But that's the truth, man. It really is. Like Corey's the one that taught me the majority of that shit. When it came to the springboarding, that was all him. When it came to that, like the you know, the Dragon Rana and all that, that was Corey. I remember working on the 720 DDT. That was a springboard as well. That was also Corey. There's a lot of shit that Corey worked on with me when it was just the free time of him and I, that I don't think that he realizes like just how much he did teach me in that time as well. But yeah, he was really a huge part in that.
Man, that's so cool. And you know what? And Corey is just so talented. As you know, and as I've said on the show before, in the last couple episodes, as I have started my journey in the stand-up comedy business.
Yes, yeah.
And Corey is very much so already in. I mean, he's got his face on flyers. I mean, he's
really. I knew he'd been doing it for a while, but I didn't know how he was doing with it.
Yeah,
Dude was always funny. If
yes.
anybody's ever talked to Corey Bush, I'm sure they can think of multiple good stories involving him. I remember him getting kicked out of Ryan's once. Around the House of Pain days, they told him to leave. He was eating too much food. We had been there for like an hour or so, dude. I'm not even kidding. The Ryans in Hagerstown, they flat out asked him to leave.
Whoa. Dude, I always like, you know, you hear like funny stories about like that happening, but it didn't really happen. And I can't believe that really happened to him.
Yeah, dude, that happened before a House of Pain show. I remember it was like me, Corey, Brandon. I think Gooston was there. Tremor was there. There was a good amount of us, and Corey was the only one still eating. And yeah, they asked us to leave.
Man,
they did not say you have eaten. You know, you ate too much. But there's no other reason that they would ask us to leave. It's not like they needed the table. You know what I mean? There were plenty of other seats available. So like, what other bullshit can you come up with?
Wow. Insane. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit. We're on the last hour stretch here. Let's talk about Starlight Gaze's managers. So we had a number of managers during our tag run. We started with Kevin Calloway, which is One of the things about Kevin is that that was his break in the business. And the main thing with Kevin was I was constructing his promos. The debut event for Phoenix Pro Wrestling that you had to sit out on, because you what was it?
I broke my foot. That was a broken foot wrestling the wild cards at SWA. Like I think it was the weekend before, actually.
I mean, we definitely didn't need a manager, but because we were trying to think of like the complete package.
We were still figuring out ourselves. We hadn't even had a match yet. We met Kevin. Well, I met Kevin. I don't know if you knew him beforehand, but he was doing like a little interview thing. And I remember going to his house and us doing the interview just to try and like hype us up a little bit to have some kind of, steam. But yeah, we just didn't know who we were going to be yet.
And I remember the interview that we did went very well. We had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And, and we started a friendship with Kevin. So we took Kevin with us for Starlight Gaze. And for the very first show that you weren't at, I constructed word for word how to say it, when the pauses are, you name it. I constructed that whole promo, and Kevin fucking delivered that promo, man. And it was good. It was damn good. So Kevin was the first manager for Starlight Gaze. Now, what I want to ask you is, once we've already talked about it on the show before about how Kevin left. I don't want to bring it up again.
Yeah.
But Tuna for Sushi is the next manager. That was your idea.
So Tuna, I enjoyed. I remember Tuna, like him and I had always stayed in contact with each other. Tuna was a House of Pain manager. Him and I got along really well.
Good guy.
Oh man, absolutely fantastic. Hilarious. Dude was very fun to work with. And the name itself is enough to make it. Tuna for Sushi. It's so good. I have a t-shirt of his. His is one of the few t-shirts that I bought from back in the day. But I remember him and I were just constantly in contact with each other. And I remember talking to him the one time about seeing what he was up to and everything like that. And he hadn't really been working anywhere. Like he was trying to kind of come back around. And I was like, well, shit, dude, like we just got rid of our manager. What do you say? Like, what are your thoughts on it? And I remember him not being too sure that he would fit in and, with the whole gimmick. So I remember he was a very dedicated guy to the craft of wrestling, to the point I remember him. he would grow out a beard because he was allowed to have a beard at work. I forget exactly where he worked. I think he was allowed to have a beard, whatever it was. But the day of the show, before he would leave from Maryland, he would shave everything but his mustache, and he'd have a real thick porn star looking mustache. And then he also bought a variety of thongs to wear to make sure that they were up. It was like up his back, just to have something to kind of mesh with us. But I liked the idea of Tuna because at this point, I think that we were at the point where we didn't need a manager. Like I think that we had kind of realized that we didn't need a manager, but for a lot of what we were doing storyline wise, I liked the concept of utilizing a manager, especially one that knew how to do that stuff. So like, I mentioned the match with Shane earlier. That same night you wrestled Zach Rain.
Yes.
And I always enjoyed doing a spot. It was a spot that I remember doing in the House of Pain. And we had Tuna do it where he would trip them. He would trip the face. The face would stop. You're still kind of selling. Face would stop, see him, get out of the ring to chase him. Tuna runs around the ring, comes back in the other side, and as the face slides in, then they get blasted. And that's the cutoff for the heat. And so I remember that was the cutoff this show for you and Zach's match because you guys wrestled before us. And I knew that Tuna would nail the spot. I knew that he would do the whole, he was very good at being the coward.
And I still say to this day that match with Zach is maybe. Maybe it's probably one of the best singles matches I've ever had, and it's partly because of Tuna. He hit all his fucking cues.
So yep. That's how I feel about my match with Shane that night. Everything but that Canadian Destroyer. If I can eliminate that from the match, it's still, even with that in there, still one of the best matches I've ever had. Easily one of the most memorable matches that I've ever had. And I remember we worked after you guys, and we did the exact same spot because I wanted to do a callback to it. So Tuna trips Shane. Shane gets out and chases him. Tuna slides in. I throw the line at Shane, but Shane already saw it, 3 matches ago. Shane ducks it, grabs me, hits me with a back suplex, keeps the shine going. Nice. And but again, it was one of those things where I knew that I liked the idea of utilizing a manager at that time because it was great heat. But I think at this point we kind of had found out that we didn't need one with what we were doing.
And is that why we stopped using Tuna?
Honestly, I think it was his schedule because he was driving very far. Tuna lives, I don't know if he still does. I don't know. He lived in, I think, Ellicott City, Maryland. So he had quite a hike, actually. He was driving quite far. And I think that was the main reason. I think that it couldn't work for his schedule for the travel and everything.
I always thought he lived in Catonsville, Maryland. I guess I was wrong.
I want to say it was Ellicott City. I could be wrong, though. I think that's where it was. But the only reason I think that is because that's where they had like a big flood and all this shit like years ago. And I think I remember him talking about that. But I don't know. I really don't know.
So after old Tuna for Sushi, at some point we got Matt Bish.
And I don't know if that was us as a team. Oh no, it was. That was during when we had the faction going.
Yes.
Me, you, because he managed, I think, C4.
Yes.
I believe. And so we just kind of ended up together, I think, was what that was.
And James Ford was that.
Yeah. And then the one guy of Schwartz's, you mentioned him on the one episode.
Cody Manning.
Yes, him. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's how we ended up with Bish, I believe.
Yeah, maybe did one match or maybe 2 with Matt Bish, but how about motherfucking Mike Skills?
So Mike Skills, I'll be honest, man, because he only manages was it even more than once? I can only think back of one, and that was at, I think, SWA, and it was me, you, and Kenny Craig against Ken Phoenix, and I think Stephen Broussard.
Yes.
And then there was a third guy that he was actually injured. He got hurt like the day before or something like that. So we had a handicap match, and Mike was with us then. Mike, I remember he was another one that he was just fantastic. Like
he embraced the gimmick.
Yes, man. Just the way he looked. He just made people hate him. Like he wore the open shirt with the belly out. Like he took those extra steps to push it, And I remember if you did not know Mike and you just heard about Mike, depending on who you heard about him from, you might hear bad things. Dude had a very dark sense of humor. Like, that's for sure. Like, he had a very dark sense of humor. So I definitely know that I had heard some bad stories about him. And after I got to know him, I think it was just people not knowing that that's who he was. But dude, he was probably definitely one of the funniest, but one of the honestly sweetest fucking people compared to his gimmick. You know what I mean? The dude on show, absolute fucking dick.
Yes.
In terms of his character, he was an absolute fucking asshole, and it was fantastic. But then, dude, you get back through the curtain, and dude, he was the nicest He was the nicest guy in every locker room that we ever were in with him. Hands down.
I mean, just talking soft spoken.
Yeah, dude, he was quiet. He was very quiet too. He would talk real gentle and there were times that I swear, dude, I almost had to be like, what the fuck are you saying? Yeah, man, fuck. He was a fucking good dude to work with. Very, very fun to work with.
So who if you got to pick favorites, who do you think is your favorite manager we had?
Oh shit, man. Honestly, I think it's going to be a tie between Tuna and Mike, just because of them. They really did embrace the gimmick of us. Um, I don't think that we really the only one that I don't want to say that it was a bad experience. Um, and I kind of want to, and if I were to use those, I think that you and I are at fault for it, and that would be Kevin. The only reason being is you and I at least had experience in the business, and we really brought Kevin in with him knowing nothing. You know what I mean? And that was no fault of his own by any means. I don't really remember too much about what we did go over with him. I do think that we could have probably worked with him a little bit more. But I think that we took off faster than what we had expected. And I honestly think that was overwhelming. I think it was too much for him at that time for being brand new. Imagine being brand new and then you're being thrown into the main event tag team picture of a company that is drawing very well. And now we're in the tag team title picture. And this dude has like 6 months under his belt of one show a month. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't think it was fair to him. Everybody else that we had a lot of experiences being a manager was what it came down to. We had very, very, very seasoned managers with us. He was the only one that we weren't seasoned as a tag team yet. So I think at the time we thought it was a good idea, but then you and I clicked immediately and stuff started taking off, I think much faster than either of us expected. And I think it was just too fast for him to keep up with. If I had to take a guess.
I'll throw a curveball at you. Kevin's my favorite.
Really? Kevin was fun. I think in terms I like the fact that we got to travel with Kevin. The times of us coming up here with Kevin were fucking fun. Like we had a very good time on the trips up here for sure.
And there was, like the multiple day shows where we had to stay overnight. Yeah. Kevin was fucking on board with that kind of stuff. I'm just okay.
Kevin was the most one of the boys, I think, out of the group for sure.
Yeah. So I'm just going off of the very beginning. I mean, once we decided the name and decided the look, we factored in Kevin pretty early, almost immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that he helped my vision for Starlight Gaze because I included him. And then it was a chance for me to construct somebody else's promo, and then it got over, and then having, and then teaching him how to fucking hit people. So if I had to take somebody over to the rope, from my memory, Kevin would get some like licks in and stuff like that. And I just felt like whenever he was taking direction from us, he was 100%.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever, absolutely. Whenever he was listening to, like, whenever we were giving him the instruction, dude never missed the instruction. He was solid. He was very, if there was a position that he needed to be in at that time, he was in that spot at the perfect time. Like he was very good. He caught on very well. I also think that the storyline of adding more people to it.
And you know what? They have to take a little bit of credit for that, because involving Kayla Calloway, that was a fucking mistake.
Honestly, that was it took such a good storyline that we had, and then it's like, oh, you guys have a manager, so here we're gonna put this manager with them. And the managers are going to have a storyline against each other, and just to build on it. And I don't think it needed I don't think it didn't need that shit. It very, very obviously didn't need that shit.
And you know what? It's kind of, I'm putting the pieces together fucking 10 years later. This, and they approached all three of us about this kind of stuff. And whenever you're telling Kevin, who's, bushy-tailed and bright-eyed and, first days in the business, so fucking exciting. Whenever you start telling this dude, it's like, all right, and your antagonist is this bitch.
And you're like, oh shit, okay. Like,
I kind of want to fucking send him a message and be like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry."
Yeah, for real, man. Because I that it wasn't. It really, like I said, none of it. I don't think was fair to him in any regard. I really feel like he got fucked over in the whole scenario.
Probably. Yeah, in hindsight, yeah. But yeah, shout out to Kevin. I know that he listens to the show. So and you know, I hope that he continues to give it, you know, because we need our numbers, man. We need to hit
Yeah,
our
we
numbers.
need those. We need those.
But yeah, Starlight Gaze, huge success. So whenever we started well, I mean, hey, whatever.
For us, it absolutely was. It absolutely was.
Yeah, I wasn't making money in wrestling before this, and I did after this. So
yeah. Speaking of making money, do you want to talk about one of the things on the list? Because that I think was probably one of our best paydays. Actually, I don't know if you remember that payday or not.
Pittsburgh.
But I fucking didn't say shit afterwards. I don't remember the name of the company though. What the fuck? 5 Star.
Yes,
that was it. 5 Star.
Joe Rogers.
So at this time we were, and this kind of goes, I think, for I'm assuming this is still a standard. This is always the standard, I think, for you and I, was that the first time that we wrestled somewhere, free. See how we do. You know what I mean? And then go from there. Second show, you're fucking paying us. but that was always how I viewed it. I didn't care about a paycheck the first show. I didn't want shit. You know, I'll come in, I'll fucking show you that I'm worth you paying me, and then you're gonna book me on the next show.
Yeah, I mean, because to be fair, sending a match is one thing, but let me and Tyler show up in your locker room. Let us not create a fucking
see
issue.
What we bring to the crowd and to just the company itself.
Yes,
absolutely, because that is a big part of it as well as the backstage aspect of it. But I remember just hearing such shit about that I was like, I think we should get paid on this first one. And I remember this. I don't know if you and I ever really discussed, like, because you and I both got us bookings. Like you got us bookings at some company. And I think 5 Star was mine, because I remember I discussed pay with him.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of times we charged, like, depending on the company, it was like $50 for the team, 75 for the team. I told him 100. I told him 100 was what I told him.
Because of the distance. Hell yeah.
And I don't know. Do you remember the payday at all?
No.
Okay. Because I fucking do. Because I remember specifically what I asked for was 100 for the team.
I remember Joe Rogers holding our fucking pay at the end of the night.
I remember we had to track him down to the parking lot and say, hey, we're leaving. Where's our fucking pay?
Well, he even told me, he was like, nobody gets paid until the ring gets torn down.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm going the fuck home. So
I was like, where the fuck is your locals, bro? Like, we live 4 hours away.
Fucking, but I remember getting $100 payday that show. Like, for myself. I remember, and I even went back and looked at the message, and I told him 100 for the team. And I remember he fucking handed us each $100. I don't know if you remember that. That's the largest payday that I ever got. And it was a complete misunderstanding. But I was so fucking annoyed at the whole ordeal that I was like, I'm fucking keeping this. I went to Denny's. I got a fucking steak and shrimp dinner that night after the show. Believe it or not, actually really good steak. It was actually not bad for Denny's. Very good.
So let's talk about the incident.
So the incident, I don't remember exactly. Were they called like the Playmakers or something?
I was hoping that you remembered their names. I don't
remember.
Does
that ring a bell? That kind of sticks out to me, and I don't know why. I don't know if that was them or somebody on another show that we worked. I don't know, but that's what kind of rings a bell. But I don't know if you remember like the exact setting or not. But I remember we're sitting down with Tyler McBride, and John Roden.
Now, real quick here, our opponents are guys who have just been out of wrestling school, like in the Pittsburgh area. They got trained very well.
I don't know their backstory. I don't remember shit about them, like as far as their work ability.
Well, they were like in shape guys. They looked like workers.
Yes, yeah, very, very in shape looking guys for sure.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
But I remember we're sitting down with Blue Collar Slaughterhouse, because McBride was, I think, writing the card. He would book the match, like he would book the matches, and then Joe Rogers would decide who went over. Fucking retarded. and McBride, I think, knew that was fucking retarded because he wasn't always the happiest. But we're also sitting down with Shane Douglas. I don't know if you remember that Shane was sitting with us as well. But Shane was sitting down because I think because he worked there frequently. So he was really sitting, I think, with McBride, but the five was sitting at the table. And I remember they come over, and the dumbest fucking question that you can ask somebody, anybody watches this or listens to this, the dumbest fucking thing as a worker that you can ask somebody is, what do you do? Fucking that shit pissed me off constantly. And you felt we had this conversation before, you and I, and they come up.
I don't say anything. I let Tyler answer.
Well, so they come over and they go, so what do you do? And Travis, you said, and I just remember you going, I can do everything. and
what the fuck do you want me to say?
And I go, I fucking work overnight at Sheets. I don't know about y'all, but and we start laughing. I remember, Blue Collar starts laughing. Shane Douglas laughs. And then I think it embarrassed them a little bit, I think was what it was. But I remember the lip smack, or like the tongue smack of the, we'll just call it while we're out there then. and then instantly all of us stop laughing. We just stop laughing. And we're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we don't have an opening. We don't have a finish. We don't have shit. And I remember we didn't talk about anything. Nothing got discussed. And we had an absolute god-awful match from my remembrance of it, because we had fucking nothing to go on.
Well, the only thing I was worried about whenever the tension was fucking so intense.
Yes.
And they
like, even getting to the ring, that was the one time that I was like, is this going to be an actual shoot? Like, is this actually because this is a possibility of this at this point. Like, but you and I had never been to this company before. These guys, I'm assuming, had been there a few times anyway, would be my guess. They seemed like from the way that Blue Collar laughed about it, it seemed like they knew them. You know what I mean?
This was like a brotherhood moment for me, because I was like, okay, I have to watch Tyler's fucking back out here against these two dudes who are in fucking really good shape. They could easily kick both of our asses.
Yeah, that was definitely, if there was ever a moment that I thought that oh man, this is going to be a pretty stiff match, that was the one. I don't remember it being stiff. I don't remember them being stiff or anything like that. I remember it being a very professional match, but it was just fucking shit because we didn't talk about any, if we had at least had some kind of pieces of the puzzle, it probably would have been fine, because they didn't seem like bad workers. They really didn't. They just had no fucking sense of humor, apparently.
I do everything. Jesus
I can do everything.
That's exactly how I said it too.
Oh man. But yeah, I fucking, then the part about that show that pissed me off was that we were opening match and we lost. And then I don't know if you remember, but we were supposed to work a feud with Blue Collar. Yeah. And that's what we were there for, was to hype up this feud. And they were the tag champions. They just had a fucking hardcore match that I think it might have been McBride that went through a table. And one of them, I think it was Roden, had just come back from a leg injury or something like that. It was this big match that they had as the main event. And we come back and we beat the shit out of him at the end of the match. And I'm like, why did you book us? Because Joe Rogers, again, he picked who goes over. He fucking put over the other team knowing that we're there to feud with their tag champions. So why have us lose our very first match at the start of the show in front of these people and then come out and have some kind of credibility to jump their tag team champions as if we're going to win? It was, oh man, I'm glad that motherfucker paid us double.
Yeah. Joe Rogers actually went viral just a couple months ago by somebody in AEW. I don't remember who. Somebody
Really?
from so Joe Rogers was on Twitter and he talked shit on somebody's post, and they like took his picture where he's got like a goofy smile with like one big fucking tooth hanging out, and they were like, "Is this you, bro?" And it got retweeted. There were people like a lot of people were talking shit about Joe Rogers not long ago. So, I mean, to be fair, that guy was a goof.
Yeah.
So we only have about 25 minutes left. Let's go ahead and talk the main titles of Phoenix Pro Wrestling. I had a run with the Grand. You had a run with the Grand. We were the Gemini champions on 2 different occasions.
If we're being technical, 3 now.
Three.
Yeah, technically 3 now. But yeah, when back then 2, yeah.
So go ahead and tell me which run was your favorite of all of these?
My
Legacy
favorite was
included.
our very first Gemini, hands down.
Yeah.
My favorite one that we ever did. Hands down, the most fun period of wrestling for me ever. From how we won the titles to I not how we lost the titles, because that was the show that I wasn't there for.
And we were looking forward to
well,
wrestling the wild cards. Like,
what'd you say?
Well, we were just looking forward to wrestling the wild cards so much. We had already had our tag match with Project 13, Shane Malice and Zach Rain.
Wrapped that one up, and
yeah, that one's in the books. And then the next one in our heads that we had to a great opportunity to kill it.
Yeah.
Because we even had a great match with Blue Collar Slaughterhouse.
Yes.
Wild cards was next for us.
Yep.
Didn't happen.
And of course we have the award show match of the year for the ladder match. Mm-hmm. And I catch an elbow and have just blood gushing down my face and leave to go to the ER on the night that we are set to at the anniversary show when we were set to drop the belts. To their surprise, they did not know that they were getting the belts that show. Originally, they had no idea because I remember we had talked about a finish with them, and that was them hitting me with, I don't know if you remember, they were going to hit me with their tag finisher. I forget what they used at the time, but they were going to hit me with their tag finisher. Was it didn't they do like a Russian leg sweep STO thing? They were going to hit me with that, go for the pin. You were going to break it up, dump them, hit the throat cutter, and we were going to go over. That was what they were told was what the finish was. And little did they know I just wasn't kicking out of their finisher and you weren't breaking it up.
Yeah.
Because that was something that we were big on for some reason. Was that
we just wanted we wanted that genuine fucking reaction.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this or not, but just a couple months after this match, we were scheduled to wrestle the wild cards in a fucking cage match.
Yes, actually. I actually forgot about that.
In an outdoor event, and it got rained out.
And I actually completely forgot about that, actually. Yeah, shit.
And that was going to be our first cage match together.
Yeah. And we had one. We definitely had one.
Let's go ahead and talk about that. So at this point, before me and Tyler had the only cage match I've ever had, this is the only cage match Yeah. Before this, we had already did the angle where we split the team, which, okay, let's talk about that real quick, actually. The reason why we split the team from my memory was 2 reasons. The main reason is because slowly but surely, more and more of the fans, the girls, the kids, they started to cheer you.
Yeah. It was definitely a difference. Like, I'd get tagged in, yeah, cheer. You get tagged in, boo, and it was a switch, man. It happened very quick. Yeah, you were not wrong.
But also at this time, some like life changes were happening for me where I thought I was going to be moving like 7-8 hours away outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
which that ended up not happening. But we, for a short period of time, we thought that was the plan. So we split the team. And I really like how we split the team. We split up in New Florence, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. At a place called the Backyard. Interestingly enough.
This promotion got accused of being a backyard company by, fucking asshole, jealous indie wrestlers from the area that weren't getting booked on the cards. And now we're running shows at the place called the Backyard.
With one of the greatest production things that we've had, without a doubt. It was so sad that it didn't draw better. It really was.
Yeah. That was a really fun match. Tyler ended up needing my help at the end of the match. Near the end of the match, he needed my help, and I visibly showed the crowd that I was fully able to help you, but I decided not to.
Yeah.
And the fans were like, "Oh, what
the hell?
That's
like
weird." Travis just went back to the ground and started selling again. That's fucking weird. And you end up getting hit with a finish. 1, 2, 3. Gaze lost the belts. Did I attack you after the match?
I want to say yes. I think so.
I think I probably gave you a throat cutter or something.
I that was what I wasn't sure of, was whether or not there was a throat. And I feel like I do remember there being a throat cutter in there.
Yeah. Oh, and I spit on you too. That was one of the things that we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think what was great about going into the next show was the poster. Do you remember the poster?
Yeah.
The poster of us together, and it just had the two hands that were torn, and it was a picture of us ripped apart. And I think it had the verses it might have the verses in the middle.
Yeah, very creative.
I loved that design. So fun.
And yet again, it was a fucking situation where this match happened in December. Me versus Tyler Caton. It was the fucking team that we had conditioned these fans to think like, this is the fucking team right here.
Yeah.
And then
now they're split.
Yes. Now we need the fucking match. And if you remember, that show got canceled like 18 times.
It got canceled like 3 times in the same day.
We were all there. And it's starting to get really bad out there. There's a blizzard happening. We're going to go ahead and fucking call it. Not 2 minutes later. Actually, some more people are coming in. It seems like that people are making it. We're not going to get 2 minutes later. Fuck, that storm's getting pretty goddamn bad.
Dude, I had never been so confused in my life about what we were doing. I had no idea what we were doing. Was that in Windber, Pennsylvania? Is that where that was?
Yeah.
Windber.
Yeah, Windber. And but hey, to our credit, we didn't give a shit if there was like maybe 20% of the crowd came that night. We didn't care. Me and you, we gave it our all. That match meant a lot to us.
Yeah, it actually did. Because that was the first time in a while that you and I had worked against each other. And that was one of those things I was fully confident on, because again, we had done it quite a bit over the years beforehand. You know what I mean? It was nice to finally. It was exciting to do that in front of the crowd that we considered our home crowd at this point. You know what I mean? Because we were like, shit, like you and I can bring a hell of a match to the table against each other, and these guys have never seen that. So now's the fucking time for them to see that. So it was definitely exciting. It was. I remember being sad in particular, because at this point you were still moving, which was like the saddest part. Because I'm like, fuck, man, like we had like, we did a lot of cool shit. This is my fucking best friend that I travel with. You and I were going to every show together at this point. And I'm like, fuck, man, now he's moving. Like it was tough. It was tough.
It was the first time in me and your career that the entire locker room just put us up on this pedestal.
Yeah.
They fucking loved the gays, and they loved watching our matches. We would get so much fucking feedback after each time that we did something. And every
company, man, it was crazy.
But I mean, especially at Phoenix.
Yeah.
So we did the match. We found out that I wasn't leaving. So The next time that me and you had a match, which was another fucking banger, was in Johnstown at the natural gas park.
This was when you have the Grand at this point.
Well, you have you got the chalice that night. You beat me for the chalice in December. We found out that I wasn't leaving. I needed to get the chalice back from you.
Was that what that was? So the only reason I have any confusion, because I remember you and I doing something else at the natural gas park as well. Do we have 2 matches there?
It was the night Randall Fairway and ISP debuted. Me and you open that card.
Yeah, I remember that because there's actually a picture. Somehow the Grand Championship was involved in all this because Bish was with you. And I specifically remember there being a picture of Bish trying to take the title out of the ring. Yeah. Like to pull it out of the ring. And I stepped on it and had that like stare down with him. And there was that like little moment of him and I, like, of him trying to get the belt and me just holding it down in the ring.
I think I self-declared myself as the grand champion.
Oh, shit. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's exactly what it was then. Yeah.
Because maybe this will ring a bell. The goddamn finish got fucked up because that entire match was fucking perfect. I hit the throat cutter on you. I pin you. 1, 2, Sherman.
And then nothing. Yep. I don't know why that was a regular thing. I don't know if that was a regular thing, man. If I don't kick out, I'm not getting the fuck up. Like,
so I put you in the goddamn figure 4 leg lock, and then you had to tap out like a jackass after I never.
Oh yes, I did forget about that. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
Holy Thanks shit. A lot, Sherman. You fuck.
Son of a bitch.
No, dude, I should send you that match because that match is really good. For anybody who's listening to the show, all you got to do is search Travis 34 versus Tyler Caton. There's a number of matches. I mean, we had a ladder match.
So I'm gonna fill you in on something that I don't know if you even know about. This is gonna be a fun little snippet. So when I won the Grand, the picture that got posted was of me in the short rainbow trunks that I wore, with my back facing the camera, the belt over my shoulder like the boa, and I was like turning back over my shoulder smiling, right? That was the picture that Phoenix posted for like the roster or whatever. And this was in the days after me winning it and a 4-way. It was me, yourself,
Jacob Young.
I couldn't remember. I wanted to say Jacob Knott, but yeah, Jacob Young, and Robbie Page. Yeah. That was hands down probably one of the most meaningful matches to me. It was a huge thing. I know one of the things that we were going to talk about was about, you know, how do we look at a championship title and stuff like that? Is it just a prop? Does it mean more? To me, I never saw it as an ego-driven thing, but I saw it as just a sign of trust. Of, hey, like you are trusting me with the image of your company. You know what I mean? And I held that to a very high regard. So to get the Grand Championship at my size, you know what I mean, was fucking huge for me, first of all. Yeah. But then for it to be Team Page, you know, me, you, Robbie, and Jake was the first like brand new trainee to really come in, right? And start working with us. That shit was huge, man. That was one of the best matches, in my opinion, in terms of just being fun. But again, that was another scenario where I hit the moonsault, go for the pin, 1, 2, nothing, just fucking nothing. And then call for the bell, and the bell rings, and there was never actually a 3 count. That one was Akiba. But he was the referee for that one for some reason. Why you put him in charge of the main event? No fucking idea. We had way better refs. But but like having the I wanted to touch on that because that is an interesting topic about like how to view a championship and stuff like that. I do believe that it's a good prop to propel somebody, but I don't think that, again, you have to know that whoever you're doing, you have to trust them with the image of your company because you're the guy that gets put on stuff. So, like,
how many times did you defend the Grand Championship before you had to give it up?
Honestly, I think only twice. I think only twice. I don't remember if mine and ISP's match, which is it's in probably my top 3 of my all-time favorite matches I ever had. I don't remember if him and I's match was for the Grand.
That might have been a non-title. Yeah.
If it was for the Grand, I think that was only the 3rd. But I remember the very first title defense was David Hetfield. That was the very first.
Whose idea was that? Who did you want to defend against Davey, or was that?
No, I don't know how that came about, but I had no issues with it. I didn't quite understand like why. It was very like random, you know what I mean? But it was literally the very next show is who I defended against. We did have a hell of a match. It was fantastic. Yeah. And then I wrestled Jimmy Ford, and we didn't have an actual finish. We didn't really have too much of a match because that was during the Non Grata storyline. And so Jimmy, I believe, gets jumped during the match, and he runs off or no, maybe he doesn't get jumped. Whatever it was, somebody comes out, and Jimmy chases them out of the arena, and I think he got counted out. We never actually got a full match out of it. That's one of those things that Jimmy Ford and I still talk about to this day. Like, is that him and I never actually wrestled each other.
But that was like was that the story where you were kind of hinting at me returning?
Yes. Okay. Was Non Grata and everything. And that was me getting like cornered by them and getting out. And then it somehow set up me and ISP. And then that turned into you coming back and bringing Starlight Gaze back together to battle Non Grata. And then that's what led to the cage match.
I remember.
I only had the Grand Championship for a few months. It was maybe only like a 5 or 6 month run, if I had to guess.
And working with Fairway and ISP, just to make a comment about that, for the first years of Phoenix Pro Wrestling, everybody in that fucking locker room dogged ISP and Randall for years to us.
Unbelievable shit. The unbelievable amount of shit that was spewed. And I still, to this day, I still don't know what the heat exactly was about. It seemed like everybody like had gotten over it. Everybody was like a brotherhood again. Yeah. So I don't know what the actual history was that led to that. And I never brought it up because I didn't want to fucking, you know what I mean? Not my fucking business. Not my fucking business.
I was, though. It kind of rose a couple questions in the back of my mind. Like,
yes, it was a little weird, man. It was a little weird.
Now we get to work them. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm like, okay, like, don't know how the fuck this came to be, but like
these are shitheads. Okay.
like so these guys are assholes, and you're putting us with them, like
Travis and Tyler are the fucking bruisers of the company. Oh, they'll straighten them up.
Yeah, man. I remember fucking having a hell of a match with ISP, man. I'll still go back and watch that one from time to time. That's definitely up there for me. But about looking up you and I on YouTube. So the day that my photo gets posted with the Grand Championship, I get probably 75 to 100 friend requests on Facebook this day. Right? Very random. Had no idea what was going on.
That's strange.
Yeah, very strange, right? Very strange. All kinds of fucking friend requests. And there's people messaging me and they're like, hey, thanks for accepting, blah, 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 that kind of shit. I'm like, all right, like, this.
And they were all people from India, right?
No. Yeah, it turns out I was getting scammed, actually. So we fucking, like, I'm getting all these messages. And finally, this one dude, he's like, hey, man, he's like, I'm from Tennessee. Like, I just found your stuff. Love your work. If you ever come down here, please let me know because I'll be there. I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like, that's really dope. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So I message him back and I'm like, this is the guy that's gonna tell me what exactly is happening. And so I say, hey man, I really appreciate that. Thanks for, looking out. I would absolutely love to go down there at some point. Out of curiosity, how did you find me? Because I was like, I'm having a very weird day. I remember that's what I told him. I'm having a very weird day. And he goes, oh, well, your picture got shared on this Facebook page. And so he sends me a link to it, and it's like a fucking fetish wrestling page. And it just says like, Tyler Caton found himself some gold, is what it says. And this is my profile picture as well. So all that somebody has to do is look up Tyler Caton. There's not that fucking many on Facebook. And it's that picture. It's the same picture. And I'm just getting a shit ton of friend requests. So if you actually look us up on fucking YouTube, there are actually playlists that you and I are in of squash job stories, big guy versus small guy. Like, all of my most watched matches are the ones that are in these fucking playlists.
Oh my God.
Very awkward, man. Very, very awkward.
I don't know if you've ever told me that story. I knew that, I've searched us before and I saw that we were in multiple different playlists and stuff like that. I guess I never put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I did not know until that part. So like this one here, I don't know if you can, that's not going to be able to be seen really. I just scrolled down. There's one actually that the playlist says HB Tyler Caton. I don't know what the hell HB means.
Hard body.
The YouTube channel is called Wrestling Domination. And there's 12 videos in it. But the thumbnail, it's actually, I think, you and I from the National Gas Park. It's actually the thumbnail. It's you and I circling the ring. But yeah, that was how a lot of those got to be popular.
Well,
here's an interesting one. You have a playlist of your own. This just sounds, a little fucky. Thumbnail's also you and I in the ring, and it looks like you having me in like a rear naked choke, or like a sleeper. Profile or playlist is just called Travis Do 4. 6 videos in it by Black Bull UK.
All right. Dude, I mean, in the wrestling business, man, you'll take whatever traction you get.
Men at Work is another name of this playlist. The thumbnail is me in the ring from Thunder when I wrestled C4, and it was from when you were patting me down before the match.
Jesus.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do a gimmick like Starlight Gaze, we were ready to take whatever came with this gimmick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so, I would say speaking of like the title runs, honestly, man, my absolute least favorite title run that I had in Phoenix, because there was so much that I was excited to do, and then I fractured my back, and then that put a halt on everything. And then even when I came back, I never really felt like I was where I was at again.
Me and you, we were leading up to fucking reigniting me and you. I was, I came back to save you. Had these matches with Non Grata, but it was leading to me turning on you again,
and you and I feuding for the grand.
Yes. But I told this story on episode 3 of this show. Me and Tyler were in our cage match with Non Grata. ISP ended up taking Tyler to the top of the cage. He's standing on the top rope. He's got Tyler on his shoulders. If you're aware of wrestling terminology, he's got him in the electric chair drop, just kind of having your kid on your shoulders at the fair style. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And the timing was mismatched. Tyler ended up going first. ISP followed very shortly after. And Tyler, accordion style, folded on the mat with ISP landing on top of him. Tyler ended up fracturing his spine.
Yeah, the actual spot was supposed to be that I got over the top and started to go down, and he was going to stop me and pull me back in, and we were going to do a superplex. And that was the actual spot that we were going to do. Well, I get one leg over, and he grabs my leg. And so I'm like, how? Like, I can't get over if you already got me. Like we pulled the trigger too soon. So he like pulls me back in. And it's actually really ironic because I called this spot when we were talking about the match, about an electric chair from the top rope. And I remember then us being like, nah, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea to do that. And we were like, let's do a superplex instead. And so then the superplex gets interrupted. He pulls me in, and I end up on his shoulders. And I'm like, well, fuck, like this is exactly the spot that I originally pitched, so let's do it. And basically what happened was we were both holding the cage. We're both holding the cage. And I remember feeling him push off and then hold. Well, when he pushed off, I put my hands on his head, and I was going. So I started just a second before him, and then he let go. So by the time that we got around, my knees were on the mat above my head, and then he came right down on my ass. Did not know. It fucking hurt. It definitely fucking hurt. Knocked the wind out of me. I remember crawling to a corner and telling, because all the referees and security like rushed to make sure I was okay. The place got dead silent. And I remember telling the security and everybody, I specifically remember my exact words were, get the fuck away from the cage. People can't see. And so they backed away. I laid in the corner for a couple minutes. You and Randy worked a little bit. And then you got out. And then Randy got out. And then ISP and I wrestled another 10 minutes of a singles match, including me hitting like the spinning unprettier. I got fucking tased because of how sweaty I was. I legitimately got hit by the taser, actually. It left like 2 like little burn marks on my like abdomen from it. And then I got handcuffed to the bottom rope. And if you watch the match, I didn't think there was any chance of me breaking free from that. So I'm yanking as hard as I can. And the fucking handcuffs come undone, actually. Like they come undone from the ropes. And so thankfully I didn't notice it right away. But by the time that I noticed that they actually did come unhooked and were just hooked around it, he's already walking out of the door. So I break the handcuffs and then I dive for him, but I miss him because he's already too far gone. So like I'm not gonna lie, man. That's a little bit. I would say that's probably the biggest ego trip that I have in anything. Fractured my back in a fucking cage match, then wrestled a good singles match for 10 minutes, got fucking tased, and then I broke a pair of handcuffs and got free. And then I walked around for 2 days before I went to the emergency room to find out that I had a fractured back.
And just to be clear, what told you to go to the emergency room?
It wasn't what, it was more of who. It was my mom. She said, you need to go get checked out.
Could you see?
No. So you couldn't actually see anything. So I remember when I got out of the ring after that match, we had like a little mic spot or whatever it was me with Kess. I had a little mic spot. And I remember getting out of the ring and I bent down, went through the ropes. And when I stood back up, I was like, that fucking hurt. I was like, oh my God. So I make my way to the back and I go to sit down. Like we were the main event and it was a good match. So, the boys were, good match, shaking hands, shit like that. I go to get changed and I go to sit in my chair and I lean back and like go to sit and I couldn't bend. So I literally fell into the wall. And I was just still standing, and I was like, "Something's not right. Like this is kind of fucked up." So I had to have somebody else actually undress and change me because I couldn't. And then I did not drive myself home after the show. I laid in the back seat of my mom. I had originally drove, and then my mom met me there. And my mom actually brought me back home, and I laid in the backseat of her car. In the backseat, I reclined her seat, the passenger seat. But I asked her to stop at Walmart to buy me Icy Hot because I thought that would make it better. So, and then it comes to find out it was not anything that Icy Hot was fixing. But yeah, I went home. I went to sleep. I got up. I literally had to like roll myself out of bed. And dude, it fucking hurt. I was in a back brace for about 6 months. I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds. Not 6 months. 2 months. It was 2 months.
Wow. Best case fucking scenario.
Yeah, dude, it was 2 months. I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds. I actually spent quite a few nights of sleeping on the floor, like to keep my back straight, because the mattress would actually hurt worse. Like with it, allowing me to kind of bend. Dude, it was so bad. I slept probably the majority of that 2 months, I slept on a hardwood floor because it was the best thing for my back. I had never been so depressed in my entire life, man. It was fucking bad. It was very bad. Thinking I'm never going to be able to wrestle again. There was the possibility, because I cracked the front of my L4, L5. If the back brace didn't work, and it didn't, their plan was that it would allow the vertebrae to fuse where it had cracked. It would just heal itself. And if that didn't work, I was going to have surgery. Well, since it was cracked from the front, they would have to go in from your side to access it. And to get to that part in my back, they would have had to remove my bottom rib to access that part. So I would have lost a rib and gotten, fucking bolts and shit, like, the pins in my vertebrae to actually hold it together. So I was super lucky when we hit. I remember, I think you'd actually see it on the video, not the like one part, but you can literally see me like move my hands, and then you can't see it, but I actually like moved my toes, and then I move each of my legs. Because I knew that it was fucking bad. I knew it was bad. Like that it was a bad bump. And so I actually I literally checked my whole body to make sure I could move. And I was like, I can move. I'm good. Like, let's keep going. Like that was my mentality, was if I can still move everything, this match is going to keep going. Like,
whoa, that's just fucking, it's just so hard to hear that story.
And say, man, that was the hardest part of my entire life, hands down, without a doubt. The depression during that point was very fucking real. Very fucking real.
No, I get it. Whenever I had my neck injury, which still has ended my career, just a month after that, my best friend I ever had committed suicide.
I do actually remember when all that happened. I remember you talking to me about that.
And it's like, man, you have all this passion for something, and then just so many facets of your life is over. That's fucking depressing.
Yeah, man, it really fucking is.
And that's episode 10, guys. Check us out. No, I'm just kidding.
Man, that's a hell of a note to end on for sure, man. Fucking mass depression caused by wrestling.
No,
the other thing I want to comment on, just because we're on here, was something interesting that you had said, and I don't remember if it was I don't remember what episode you said it on, but you had mentioned about just the toll that wrestling took on you, about your memory in particular. And dude, that shit's legit. Like it was one of those things when you said that I actually I think it was one of them that I listened to on Spotify on my way to and from work. And I actually remember going back. I remember fucking hitting my radio, because it has the back 15 seconds or whatever. And I actually remember hitting and going back and being like, did I fucking hear him say that? You know what I mean? And I went back and you said that. And that shit was crazy to me, because I think about that every day. My memory now is not good. And a good example of that was back when we were wrestling, you know what I mean? Even when we weren't wrestling all the time, I could call an entire match and fucking remember every bit of it. Now I get out there and if I do that, I need to have somebody remind me where we're at and what's next. Yeah. I can't do that anymore. If somebody asks me somebody who asks me something about work, or even like somebody that I'll deal with at work, I could help them 3 or 4 days before, you know what I mean? Just within the week. And they're like, oh, hey. And I'm like, oh, hey, I remember your face. I don't even remember what the fuck you had that I helped you with. I'm like, do you have a phone, a laptop, a desktop? I don't remember what the problem was. Dude, my memory is not good anymore. It's really
general knowledge stays, but specifics, yeah.
Not there, man. Yeah, it's cloudy, dude. It's really cloudy. That's one of those things anybody that has a passion for wrestling, give it a shot. Absolutely. I would never tell anybody not to give it a shot, but I would definitely say understand what you're getting into.
Yeah. I don't regret anything though.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. I don't regret jack shit. Nothing. But again, it's one of those things, like I said, definitely that's my biggest thing that I could tell somebody is understand the business that you're getting into. the business now at least is a better time to get into than when you and I got into it, in my opinion, hands down. But definitely understand that like the shit that happens is legit. Like I said, man, I was in a back brace for 2 months. My fucking it was a dark period, man. It was very fucking bad.
That's why some of the best advice that people can give you for wrestling is yes, you do. You need to be in the gym. You need to be training your body. You need to be training your body. Like that's so fucking key. And
absolutely.
if you don't do that, then we told you so. But, the wrestling business also attracts a lot of the majority people in the wrestling business have some kind of mental issue.
Yes. It's a very, I don't know, man. There's a lot of sketchy people in the wrestling business.
Like, a lot of people live in a fantasy world. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, man. It's not what a lot of people would think that it is when they get into it. Hands down. Definitely not.
Have realistic goals. Do not fucking set these expectations so high. Like, and not to call out Jacob Young, but I remember some of the first things he would say when I first met him. He was like, yeah, my 5-year goal is fucking, I want to be on WrestleMania. And I was like, this kid ain't going to make it. But that was 10 years ago. And he now wrestles as Jacob Edwin. He does really good business for himself. Hell of a fucking worker. Probably top 5 workers I know. So
I said, yeah, he is. And that's one of those things. Every time that I see him and I watch him work, man, I can't give him enough props, man. It is really cool to see where he's at. He is a hell of a fucking talent, without a doubt. That dude's good.
Yep, he's a student of the game. So that's what you got to do, guys. You need to be studying tape. You got to be a student of the game, and fucking take chances, man. You have to. But to close this out on a happy note, on a very positive note, things that Tyler got out of the wrestling business is, these fucking friendships that you're going to have forever. He found his wife because of wrestling.
Yeah.
We're very blessed to have been a part of this business.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's one of those things that it's changed so many aspects of my life from me. Just like I said, before wrestling, I was very antisocial, very quiet, didn't say shit to anybody. Hell, you talk to literally anybody that's ever talked to me now. That's surprising. You know what I mean? That's surprising to hear. But like that, like what you said, I met my wife through this. So like, to say like, oh, like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know where my life would be with, I really have no fucking clue, because it's literally changed every single aspect of my entire life. I legit, that's an actual statement. I really don't know where the fuck I'd be or what I'd be doing if it hadn't been for wrestling. No clue.
Yeah. I spent, I feel okay in saying this, I spent my entire childhood wondering where the fuck I fit in. And
yeah, same.
Wrestling was the first place that the door was open.
Like I tried a bunch of different things as a kid. Like I did basketball, I did martial arts, I did skateboarding. Now skateboarding, I did also meet some of the best friends that I have in my, I've ever met in my life. But like with any of those activities that I ever did, I was never like good at anything. Like I wasn't bad. I was bad at basketball, but that's because I, fucking short. Like at the time I was still like a shorter than average like kid, but I wasn't that much. Nah, I was pretty short. But like, so basketball didn't take off, but like I wasn't bad at skateboarding. I was fairly good at karate. I won tournaments and shit in karate, but it wasn't something that I felt like I was good at. You know what I mean? It wasn't until wrestling, and then like when I first started, it was still, I kind of had that same feeling about wrestling. Like, I'm not bad at this, but I'm also not good. And I don't think that it was until you and I like found ourselves as a team is when I was like, this is like where I excel. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm
meant to be.
This.
Yeah. We're supposed to be doing this. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, that is Tyler Caton, episode 10 of the Travis Dufour Show. As always, you can follow at the Dufour brand. This is Travis Dufour. Thank you once again, Tyler, so much for making the appearance on the show.
Thank you, man. It was definitely a lot of fun.
And I will see everybody on episode 11.